Hi there. Dan.
Oh, hi, Rashida.
Rashida. I've received this letter in my letterbox, which bears your letterhead, and you claim to be having a mandate with this company called the City of Cape Town. Is that correct?
Yeah, but...
So now I just wondered how much responsibility do you take? I mean, because
Okay.
you claim...
You may have a seat?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Firstly, let me just explain to you that the letter, it's just a contract that we have to send out the letters on the City of Cape Town's behalf. That is just a service that we're providing for them. That is why you will notice on here the telephone number and the email address.
That's correct.
Is not ours.
That's correct, which I find quite dubious because it says your letterhead. It says here, I can't even tell who this man or woman belongs to. It's some scribbled lines with no name, no identification. It says credit manager. It could be your credit manager or the City of Cape Town's manager. As it turns out, the lady at the reception said it's most likely not your credit manager.
No, no.
And then you send it to someone with, this company claims to be for having a mandate, now being in charge. But there's no contact details. I mean, I had to search on the internet to find out where you are.
Our information.
Yeah, and that I find that it's like something is not right here. I mean, we all know there's like a lot more coming up, which also I put in my letter that I addressed to you, which is more than likely to keep because I can email it to the City of Cape Town as well.
Okay. Yes, the letterhead is ours. We do provide the service to our client who is the City of Cape Town.
Okay.
We send out letters on their behalf. But this letter, actually, you must contact them directly.
Okay, this letter was actually not sent from you.
No, it is sent from us, but we don't administer the account at all.
Okay.
It's all computerized. It's not manually done.
Oh no, that's what a failure is in the entire system.
Yeah. So unfortunately...
Okay, now I thought as I was in town, I thought I queried this and I found out where you are, who you are, and what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And if you, I mean, it says here you've been mandated. Have you got a mandate? Have you got a copy of it?
Yes, we do.
What's it look like?
I can't tell you. It's probably filed away in management's office.
Okay.
Yeah.
But would there be a chance to obtain a copy of it?
Well, you can write and ask for a copy. Yes, by all means, you are welcome to do that.
How do I contact you then? What's the best way? I mean, in terms of email or...
You can send an email, you can write.
What's your email address?
You can send it to commercial.
So it's commercial.
At ITCBA.
At
ITCBA.
Any particular man or woman I have to address
No, that's
to?
not. The other thing I want to ask you, did you call the number on the letter?
Did I call this number?
Yes.
No, I can see that already. That's the City of Cape Town number. You end up in the same circuit in the same...
The call center number.
Call center, exactly. Which I found was quite interesting because you claim to be in charge here. That's your client.
Yeah,
and
but we're not administering the account.
I know, but it's the way it looks. It comes across. And then you say, well, you must speak to these guys here, which is your client. Because normally, like, if the client's involved, they don't get involved in terms of...
Yeah. You see, the mandate is that if you fail to actually pay the account, they can go ahead and list you on the credit bureau.
That's perfectly fine. I'm already listed there. I mean, I've got no dealings. I will never, ever have credit. There is no credit. You know that.
What are you saying? What do you mean there's no credit?
There is no credit. Whenever you go to the bank and you sign for credit card vehicle finance, with your signature, you create the funds. You are the creditor, not the debtor. The money was not there in the first place. That's the way the banks conduct business. And there's now tens of thousands of people that are busy with this around all across the country who are busy discovering this.
I'm a bit lost.
No, it's a lot to digest. Once you start getting into this, you actually look into money mechanics and how the banks run the country, every country is banks. I mean, you don't know how aware you're of like the global banking cartel, how they also own South Africa. JP Morgan mostly, most of it. And the South African Reserve Bank, what do you think? Is that a public institution or private?
I don't know. think it's a public institution.
Yeah, you would think so, because it's the South African Reserve, a privately owned company,
Okay.
run by some banksters, and the entire country is enslaved to it, because the country is indebted, and they have...
Well, yeah, no. I try not to buy on credit. I try very hard.
No, that's a good thing. I mean, we're going back that way, because that's how they got everyone, every individual and company in every country enslaved. By escalating prices, and no one's able to afford to buy. When last did you see someone buy a brand new car cash? Or a house? You know anyone who bought a house cash? I don't. Exactly. And those are two essential things you need in this society, is transport and a house. And with this, what's also even interesting, what we now, there's a whole group of people that are getting together, we just filed with the Constitutional Court last week, is the whole issue of rates. Because you can speak to any tribe or any civilization, you cannot own land. It's impossible. You can't own land. They will tell you that. Whereas in the Constitution, it already reads, it's believed South Africa is owned by the people who live in it. So already I'm owning it. So how can the government, with a big fence around it, claim ownership of it, then sell it in small little sections with a title deed, and charge you rates and taxes for it?
And if you fail to pay that rates and taxes, they'll take your land.
Well, they can't take your land. I mean, I haven't paid my mortgage, my car, my credit card for 18 months, and rates.
And? Okay, so what happened now? Because if you're not under a debt review, they can take it back.
They can't. I've been in the courts like almost every week. We have now also devised a settlement offer, where we're going in and we say, okay, we can't expose your fraud, because as it turns out, the Department of Justice, the judges are the agents for the banks.
I know there was a case where these people, they had a bond with RSA Bank. Right? This couple had a bond with RSA Bank. What happened was they defaulted, they couldn't pay, and the bank then wanted to repossess the house. And as it turned out, RSA Bank actually sold that bond to a third party, whom the homeowners had no knowledge of.
That's called securitization. That's one banking scheme.
Yeah. And because of that people actually won that case.
Yeah, I don't think if they won the case. There were a few cases in the last few years, and I know you heard about the New Economic Rights Alliance, New ERA. They've been starting this. They've been digging up on this like years ago, and they've got 200,000 people behind them. And that's how it starts off. When you first start getting a foot in the door, and you go to your bank or your mortgage provider and say, I would like to see the original. None of these originals exist. I've got it with my overdraft, the credit card. They even put in their sworn affidavits that we cannot locate such agreement at the time. And according to the Bill of Exchange Act, two parties sign a contract, both parties have a right to view it. Because on the same day that you sign it in the afternoon, they throw it away because it gets sold to another party.
Yeah, they
and we had cases where when people have been so adamant, like myself, with RSA Home Loans, they get graphic artists, they make up something that looks like the original. I've got a friend, he asked for his credit card agreement. He got it eventually. It wasn't the way he writes his aid, it wasn't his signature, and they put in militant where he was going to card.
But you signed a contract.
I can't remember signing that contract.
Okay.
You go into the court and they go, well, this is a certified copy. That's not good enough. I did not sign a copy. I signed the original. That's the original I would like to see and inspect. And that's the original that does not exist anymore. Because they got away with it for so long and no one was asking. Now people start asking and the banks just pay money. They basically back. And with the property and race, I've never signed a contract with the City of Cape Town.
I don't think anybody has.
No. So it's been assumed that you have to pay rates. It's been assumed that that's just the way it is. So you've got all the right to question it. And if, as per what I said, I don't want to own the land. I can't own it. When the moment I've asked my neighbor and I said, how deep? They look at you funny, what do you mean how deep? Because that was an important thing, because everything you buy, anything physical, has got 3 dimensions. It's got width, length, and depth. It's 3-dimensional. It's an iPhone. But with your land, it's two-dimensional. It's like a piece of paper, like a title deed. And that's actually what's got the value. It's not the land, it's got title deed is more important. The piece of paper, which has got no depth. And that's how they con people. I mean, you can be a custodian for a small section of land if you live in accordance with the laws of nature. You look after it. But in that case, the government should actually even pay you. They should rather pay me for looking after them. Which also I don't want, you know. Yeah, I know. That's, you know, it's ridiculous. And I've had huge exchanges with them already, and the excuses that they send, the money goes to uplift the poor communities. I mean, I still see kids playing in raw sewerage in Muslim Pumalele, you know. Like my suburb, Capri Village, gets new road markings, whereas the main road doesn't. You know, it's a complete misappropriation of funds.
So how do you explain that? What does this rate say?
That's correct, because I have obviously...
So you used to pay, and then you stopped paying?
Well, first, I mean, I only got into this about 2 years ago. I bought this property, the house, you know, and I was knowing from back then when I traveled the world that every civilization or every tribe, they all tell you can't own land. It's impossible. You cannot claim land. You can't own it. It's a philosophical thing. It's also, it doesn't, you can't own it. I mean, you all know the whole thing of ownership is very important these days. Like, that's what drives people, you know. And you're born with nothing and you leave with nothing. And with land in particular, that's like, and even like I said, read the pre-amble of the South African Constitution. South Africa is owned by its people. But it's another thing because we no longer people, we're persons. And this is not even me. This is a legal entity that got created by the government. That's the only way how they can get authority over you, by you identifying yourself with this.
But that's your birth name.
No, my birth name is all it's in lowercase. I'm calling myself Jan of the family Lofeld. And I would actually, and I've done it all my life. It's all in lowercase. That's me, the living man. This is another big trickery that's been played. And once you start digging, I've been doing this for many years. You think it's some kind of conspiracy, and they don't take your birth certificate and trade on the stock exchange. They do, because they take your future income, same as the banking do. The promise to pay, because the country's indebted, they need more money. They said, "What else have you got?" So it's like a gambler who's keeps on losing money, and as he loses 2,000, now he wants 4 and 8 and 16. And then they once they've already pledged all the resources, all the industry to the banks, because the banks run the show, then the banks say, "Well, what else have you got?" And they say, "Well, we've got loads of people." Okay, we've got 10 million, 20, 280 million up in America. So they estimated that every single citizen, it only works with citizenship. That's why they also tell you by law you have to register the birth of the child, because you don't have to. They don't fine you, because they can't make any money if you don't. And they say then every American, they started with Americans, every American pays around about $1,000 every month on taxes, levies, and fines and everything. That amounts to about $480,000 in about 40 working years. So you're only born, you haven't started working, you start working when you're 15, 16 years old, but this birth certificate is proof that this woman, Rashida, will at least pay $480,000 in the next 70 years. So that the government gets the money now, because they need the money now. And then they take these birth certificates, which are proof that eventually you will pay that money back. Your tax services the country's debt. And if they also do, they package.
It sounds very far-fetched.
It's very far-fetched.
But I can actually see what
you're saying. Yeah.
I can actually see what
they've done it the same way with the a mortgage agreement. It's a promise to pay. I haven't paid it back. I've agreed to pay it back in 25 years, whatever. But they're already treating it as the actual amount. They treat this promise to pay as the actual 1 or 2 million rand that they also only made up out of nothing. And then they package it and they start trading it, and even increases in value. So on the million that I allegedly was borrowed, which never existed because it's just a book entry on digital banking, they charge me interest, 1.8 million, which is already above the legal limit, and they make another 1 or 2 million with securitization. And that's what's wrong, especially in a country where 10 million people won't even live in a house. They won't even look at the house from the inside. And the 4 major banks, they make, hold your horses, 40 billion rand a month profit for the last 10 years, and unaudited and not taxed, because it's all covered by the government and the Department of Justice.
That's another problem.
It's a brilliant scheme that people...
That's our phone. They know exactly where you are every minute of every day.
Or you can deregister, rescind your citizenship, and become free as a living flesh woman. And that's what most people forget. Most people, yeah, but they say, that the society needs some restraint and order, and otherwise people just go wild. And people want everything for free, and you don't want to pay tax. It's like the country makes. If it was run, with interest for the people, they would make enough money just by charging 15% back on everything we need. That could cover everything. But because it's run by banksters, by people who even above the government, they're raking on. They even got the government enslaved to them. They can't even do much about it. But people are waking up to it, which is a great thing, and it's happening all around the world. I know you've seen it. There's protests and people like seeing now who actually runs the show.
Okay. Very interesting.
Yeah, you can.
So it's a big fight you're taking on.
Yeah, it's huge. And I mean, a lot of my friends also, they thought, I'm going mad, and you can't do this, and what you going to do about it?
Are you married?
No. Well, my son's 15, he's in Germany, so he's...
Okay. So you see, as a Lone Ranger, you can probably take on a fight like that.
It was a big advantage, because a lot of my friends who've got kids now, they're like, yeah, you do it first. And then when you
the wife, there's the kids, there's the responsibility. Okay. Yeah. Let's toe the line. It
affects everyone, and especially... I've got a friend, they've got twins, he works in the film industry, he's working himself to the ground, like 14 hours every day, still not making enough money.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? You ruin your health, you can't see your kids.
What are you doing?
I've also worked in the film industry, still every now and then still, but I'm kind of getting out of it. I've been working on this for almost 12 hours every day for the last year, without any money being paid. I had some money saved up. And obviously not paying this alleged mortgage, which is like 9,000 rand a month, and a car that was sold for like at least triple the amount of value that it's actually worth. See, I don't mind paying something if it was all transparent, and if I was, let's say, I work hard for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I could save maybe 200,000 rand, put it in my account, and I want to buy a house at a realistic value of like 500,000. I mean, the house I bought was selling for 350,000 14 years ago. Now it's 1.4 million. The guy who's lived there before was selling life insurance. He couldn't even put a nail in the wall. It was completely ruined. It should actually be less, 350,000, not 1.4 million. And if it was selling for, let's say, 500,000, I would be happy to go to a bank, if I don't have the money, to borrow those 300,000 rand and go, okay, cool, this is the shortfall. We sit down, you and me, contract. I can see there's the cash in your vault, like back in the 40s or 50s, the bank still had a vault. You could see the money. There was $1 million. We borrowed like 100,000. There was only 900,000 left. And under those conditions, I would pay back every single cent, even without the contract, because it's common sense. I saw the money. Back in the days, you still had a personal relationship with your bank manager. I mean, I still had that back in Germany. I know that you had the same guy, and you had a relationship. And now it's because it's all metropolized, corporatized, capitalized. And then it's just common sense that you pay it back because you've got the cash in your hand. Now with my car, even Nedbank now says, no, this is not a loan. We never loaned you any money. We purchased the car for you.
That is how it is.
Yeah, okay, but
what they do. Even with the house, they buy the house. You pay them, but the house remains there.
Yeah.
Until the transfer time when the house becomes yours, you pay them the last cent.
But still, where do the funds come from? And no bank until today has answered that question. It's an easy thing. Just shows your balance sheet, shows that you had the money in one of your accounts, that it was actually there prior to lending it to me.
Yeah.
And this was a whole can of worms at the dawn of the digital banking age, in the early 90s. They figured, wow, look at this, we can just type in a computer. You want $1 million? There it is. Yeah. And that faltered the entire economy. There's like so much more money being created.
I was looking at the stamp of Madiba, and I was saying people don't even use stamps anymore. Who needs to post something in this email? I mean, it makes sense.
Posters are quite busy.
I don't know. I don't see people posting things besides these silly stuff.
Yeah, I know. And that's also got a digital stamp as well, which is actually not even legal either, according to the Universal Postal Union. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, you should do some research there online. There's a lot of stuff you can find out about.
Yeah.
You might have to leave the company. They definitely like supporting or representing their own team.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
Likewise.
I shall email it to them.
Yes.
I've got Mr. What's his name? Morney Crook. Funny enough, his name's Crook. He works at the City of Cape Town.
Okay, you're welcome.
Awesome. You have a nice rest of the week, yeah.
You too, good luck.
Yeah. Well, that's what even the Nedbank's attorney said. He couldn't understand. Yeah, but you be driving a car, not paying for it. And after I told him why I'm doing this, he actually said, well, I wish you all your best with your endeavor, but I still have to oppose the application.
Yeah.
Bye.